Today, we are diving into the heart of democracy. But what does democracy really mean? It's something that I see thrown around a little bit today, where people are even suggesting that countries like the United States or Canada aren't actually democracies. So today, we're talking about representative versus direct democracy. Let's break it down. First up, representative democracy. This is what most of us are used to. It's kind of like when your parents might send you to a grocery store with a shopping list because they're not able to do it themselves. In a representative democracy, you elect representatives to make decisions on your behalf. The key here is efficiency. When we're talking now countries of millions of people, it becomes completely impractical for everyone to vote on every single issue. So, we elect representatives who do all that heavy lifting of lawmaking. Think of it a little bit like having a manager for your political life choices. So, most liberal democratic countries today operate on some form of representative democracy, but sometimes with some sprinkles of direct democracy thrown in. For example, the United States elects congressmen and women, and even the president, who again make decisions on people's behalf. In Canada and Great Britain, who operate on a Westminster parliamentary system, elect members of parliament who together make those decisions on people's behalf. And this goes all the way down to cities and towns, where you elect a mayor, and bigger cities might have city councilors or aldermen also tasked with making decisions on behalf of the people who voted for them. Now, direct democracy is kind of the opposite of that, right? It's like going to the store and yourself picking out every single thing that you need. Here, citizens vote directly on laws and policies. So it's kind of like democracy in its purest form, where every citizen's voice counts directly on everything. Historically, this is how democracy started in antiquity. Like when we consider somewhere like ancient Athens being called the birthplace of democracy. They had very significant elements of direct democracy built in. But imagine trying to do that with today's population sizes. It would be like trying to have a family meeting with 500 million people in your country. That said, we do see elements of this in our democratic states today. In the United States, for example, many states' citizens vote directly on what are called propositions, while other countries might have plebiscites or a referendum on important key issues where they want the public to weigh in directly on a particular issue. But generally, these are pretty few and far between. One I remember recently from when I lived in Calgary, Alberta in Canada was a referendum about whether Calgary should pursue an Olympic bid, which is a pretty major cost. So the city council decided to give everyone a direct say on whether to proceed or not. And again, on a larger scale, we've seen examples in places like Quebec in Canada or Scotland in the United Kingdom about whether they should actually gain independence from their states. Again, big issues with massive implications. So those countries wanted their people to have a direct say on an issue like that, right? So let's talk about scale. Representative democracy scales really well, and it can manage large, diverse populations. And direct democracy, well, that works a little bit better when you're dealing with smaller communities or very specific issues. In terms of engagement, direct democracy can increase voter participation because people feel directly involved. But it also has its pitfalls, like the idea of the tyranny of the majority, where minority rights could easily be overlooked if decisions are only based on majority votes. Right? Imagine if every decision was based on a simple majority and some decisions are made with 51% of the vote. Well, that means 49% of people are totally out of luck. Imagine if you and 9 friends are voting on pizza choices. 6 of you vote for ham and pineapple and 4 of you vote for pepperoni. Ham and pineapple will always win, and some of those pepperoni voters might really dislike the idea of pineapple on pizza. Well, in this case, sucks for them. The majority always wins, and the needs of the minority are not represented. On the other hand, representative democracy potentially has its issues too. It can, for example, sometimes lead to power being concentrated in the hands of elites, where those in power end up not really representing the interests of the people. It's like electing a manager who decides to spend all of the budget on office decor and not paper, staples, pens, and pencils. Modern technology has also brought in a little bit of a twist to this. With digital platforms Elements of direct democracy can be integrated into representative through things like online referendums and participatory budgeting. But let's not forget the challenges. Direct democracy requires an informed populace, which isn't always a given. Even on a single proposition or referendum question, it can take considerable time and effort to become informed. And representative democracy, on the other hand, needs checks and balances to ensure that representatives don't stray too far from the public will. So, where do we land? Ideally, perhaps a hybrid utilizing the best of both worlds. Representative democracy for the majority of the decision-making, with direct democracy for select key issues. Thank you again for joining us on this democratic journey. Remember, both systems have the same goal, giving power to the people. They just have slightly different ways of getting there. As always, if you learned something today, give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, drop us a comment, and we'll see you again next time.